Greetings, Ted Hicks, founder, CEO, Chief Investment Officer for Hicks & Associates Wealth Management. Today is Friday, May 12th, 2023. And today's video is going to be brief. One of the main things that I want to get across today is to encourage you to be careful how you consume the news or how much credence you give to the news. And I'll show you a real quick example at the end of the video. But first I want to chat about our economy and one of the big risks that our economy is facing. And this is not necessarily a short-term risk. This is really a longer-term risk. So first up, we have the GDP chart. I showed this chart in our monthly market monologue that I shot on May 1st. But here I'm just showing that the GDP has indeed come down for the first quarter of 2023. And remember, the Federal Reserve has been trying to slow the economy because they're trying to get inflation under control. And so the way that the Federal Reserve is doing that, or one of the ways that they're doing that, is they're raising the interest rates to try to slow the economy down, and GDP is coming in, so it's declining. So to some extent, you could argue that they are succeeding in that mission. On the screen right now, we have two data sets. Both are coming from the FRED database, or the Federal Reserve Economic Data. But the blue line is the national defense spending. The green line is the current interest payments that the federal government is making or having to make on the nation's debt. And you can see that the green and the blue lines are now equivalent. So what this is telling us is that as a nation, we are now spending as much on the interest on our debt as we are on our defense. That is not a good sign. And again, many of us have been talking about this for a long time. We have way too much debt as a nation. And I won't get into that about where we should cut spending or whether or not we have to raise taxes. It's most likely both, by the way. But this is a big problem that our nation is going to be facing for a long time. And if the Federal Reserve maintains the interest rates at a higher level, high being relative, because the current rates are certainly high as what we've been experiencing the last several years, but by historical standards, they are not high. But if they raise the rates even further, this problem gets even worse. So it is a very big problem. And one of the things that we have been trying to get across over the last several months, if not a year or more, is this chart. On the screen now is the S&P 500. This is from 1965 through 1979. And sometimes you will hear us use terms like bull market and bear market. If you're not familiar with the term, a bull market is good. That's when the stock market in general, or whatever you're measuring, is going up. And the bear market is when things are going down. But in addition, we will sometimes talk about things being in a secular bear market or a secular bull market. And so this on the screen is a secular bear market. Think of that as a longer term. Now, in this secular bear market, you can see that there were periods or cyclical bull markets. And so even during this 15-year time period where the nation was experiencing a secular bear market, there were still periods of the stock market rising. So this is a graphical representation of a secular bear market that had occasional cyclical bull markets contained within it. Now, we'll take it one step further. I'm going to show you this chart, but adjust it for inflation. Now, full disclosure, I actually added 2 years. Now we're looking at 1965 through 1981, but I've adjusted the chart for inflation. So this is showing the really big problem that inflation can have and why the Federal Reserve has been trying to break inflation, because if we don't get it under control, we're going to have a very long-term problem. And again, this is your secular bear market. So one of our concerns is that we are in a secular bear market, but we are experiencing a cyclical bull phase within the secular bear. Now, we're still in this, so it's hard to know this definitively. But this is one of the reasons why we are so careful in terms of how we are managing client assets and why we believe so strongly in protecting or doing our best to manage risk, manage downside risk by cutting losses quickly when they happen, because the fear is that we are in a secular bear market that is experiencing a cyclical bull phase, but that cyclical bull phase will not or may not last very long. So that's the concern. So hope that gives a little bit of clarity. Now, here's the last thing that I want to chat about today. This is two different news sources. These are the headlines from these are major outlets. And what I'm trying to show here, you can see the dates are the same. We've got May 10th on both of these publications. And you see one organization is saying inflation jumped, and you have another major organization saying inflation cooled. They're looking at the same data, but they're reporting on it differently. And so our caution to you, our viewers, is to be careful how much credence you give to the news media unless you are digesting multiple news sources from different ideological backgrounds. Sorry, tongue twister. Unless you're looking at news sources across the political spectrum, let's say it that way, then you might be a victim, if you will, of the news media twisting things to fit their narrative. So again, won't get into the details, and I'm trying to hide who is saying what, because I'm not trying to point fingers, because pretty much they all do it. And one of the things I've talked about over the last several years is that I think it's in the book of Ecclesiastes that Scripture says that there's nothing new under the sun. And what we're talking about right here, the news media spinning things and saying things that fit their political narrative, that's not new. I read Ron Chernow's book on Alexander Hamilton several years ago. It's a fascinating book. If you haven't read it, I'd encourage it. But one of the things you read about is during the founding era, we had the same problem. You had the Federalists would have a newspaper and they would say one thing, and then the Anti-Federalists would use a different newspaper and they would say something completely opposite. So this is not new. There is nothing new under the sun. So just be careful of how you are consuming your media and how much credence you give to it. So that's it for today. Hope you found this helpful. If you have any questions, by all means, feel free to reach out to me or the team. It is an honor to serve you. And again, if you haven't already, we encourage you to hit the like button on the video and make sure you subscribe to that YouTube channel for us. And we'll talk to you soon. Thanks.